All right, so for career development, moving into another set of reports, just very quickly here, um, you see the greatest strengths, the career development. There is an options report that we use less frequently in a corporate setting, but Donna referenced how she was able to use even that report in some of her debriefs. And then the career engagement analysis is like the JSA, but is more generic to a specific careers. There are only 700 plus career enjoyment analyses versus the 6,500 job success analyses. Here's just a look at how those reports look. And here we have the how to manage, develop, and retain report, which we often combine with the career reports in a career development process. And this was a case that I was going to go into. We really don't have time to do it right now, but it's a really excellent case. I'm going to go to where they actually, well, how they actually implemented it. So the career development action plan that they put forward with this process, and then the actual workshops that we did for the managers was a 4-hour process. For the employees, it was a little shorter program that we did to take a look at their career reports. And this organization had developed a really nice career framework to help their leadership guide employees along the opportunities that might be appropriate for their profiles and their aspirations. And this was the director that I worked with on this program. She's now VP, as her boss has retired or actually moved on to another role. And Marissa just was really thrilled with how the program was received by the organization, and how they were able to achieve some of their goals through the process. So this is just one example of a career program. And of course, you're all wanting to use it for coaching and perhaps for training leaders as well. Lots of different reports that we use in that process. In addition to the full report that you're familiar with, there are leadership competencies that can be used as well. And those competencies are at 2 levels for the emerging leader as well as the senior leader. And one organization that I've worked with that has done a leadership development program, they had to put that on hold last year, but they've done a lot to move the first group through the process, starting with the Harrison debriefs. And then these are the training modules that they use for the program, and using the paradoxes to help them to build on those training opportunities and experiences. Some extra tools that can be used are the unintended consequences, and doing these exercises with a group of people going through such a program. But also the paradox videos could be used in that. And then those who've been through the training are very familiar with the Bermuda Triangle of accountability and how that pattern is so impactful, can also be used for training beyond teams. You can also use that for the training process as well. And then as a follow-up to that program, they did do IDPs, selecting specific trait development reports for the individual plans, among other things that they would put in the plan. So that program kind of got put on hold. I imagine that they'll reinvigorate it for next year to do the next level or another group in the training. So another application would be team development. These are the reports that we generally look at. The full report being the one that you have for yourselves, plus the team graphs, collaboration competencies, which here's just a model of that. This is very powerful. And if you have collaboration challenges with any of your teams, I have had the opportunity to use this competency model for a team that I worked with, and is very, very revealing. I have another coach that I've worked with that was doing a team project, and she actually used just one competency with a short program that she did. She took the collaboration and collaborative intention, and it was extremely successful. So you can do some very creative things with the reports when the need is there. So looking at the paradoxical leadership model, just to conclude here, this is the approach that I take for a one-day agenda after each team member has received their debrief. Then we can look at the team, and just as we did today, we would share life themes kind of as an icebreaker. We would share strong paradoxes, which we didn't have time today, but it's a great exercise. And then we would have that breakout for unintended consequences and the impact that makes on performance and the motivation for development towards balance versatility. Generally, in all of the team projects I've done, the Bermuda Triangle is integral to the team success. So invariably that is covered. And then of course, ending the day with a plan for improvement. And Janet, we won't have time to take a look at the Bermuda Triangle today, but we cover that in depth, both in level 1 and level 2. And very, very important pattern for success as leaders and within teams.
Mm.
This is another model, just a consultant that I worked with. Donna, you'll be very familiar with this, but another way that you can use multiple elements to implement a successful project. In this change management project, they first customized the JSA for the key roles of the client. They did individual debriefs for using those new JSAs, and then they developed a succession plan based on the results. Then they added 9box to that process for the talent inventory. Some very, very great insights came out of that. I remember in particular, one executive they almost didn't know what to do with because he didn't fit the role that he was in, and yet he was so valuable to the organization because of his expertise. And they had to get very creative to put him basically in a consulting role as an expert for other parts of the organization to tap. And the succession planning, we won't have time today to go through the details of the dashboard for talent management, but this is where it exists within the system, and you're able to set up whatever number of employees are being considered for succession at whatever levels. You can assign specific roles and look how they fit those roles in order to develop your succession plan. And some additional detail that is apparent on that dashboard: the engagement, paradox balance score, and emotional intelligence or EQ score as well. So lots of good things in that dashboard. I mentioned EQ. There's a model, Janet, that we look at during the training, and I always like to use this in my team programs that I implement. So this to give you a peek at the new report. I mentioned this earlier in the training that Harrison in the next few weeks is going to be coming out with this enhanced sweet spot within the sweet spot, so to speak. So you can see the dark green here for a strategic, the strategic paradox is really kind of narrow, but then there's a larger area that's considered still positive, light green, and then maybe more of a cautionary area further out. And yet when you look at stress management, for instance, or rather motivation, it's much different, isn't it? Because you want a high level of motivation, and stress management does not need to be as high. So with these areas here, we can see for this particular person, scores very high within the sweet spot on this particular one. And then on this one that we looked at, the person scored really high on analyzing pitfalls, so green there, but extremely low on willingness to take risks. So we're at the very, in the pink area, the risk area of this particular paradox. So that's kind of how it works. They also changed to a 210 scale. So you can see how the sweet spot enlarges graphically as a result of starting at 2. And you get the paradox balance score here at the top. And then there are 3 positions I mentioned earlier, but I'm not sure exactly what they're calling this third one. To give you an example.
And Cheryl,
So
when
we,
does this
yeah,
happen? Is it already happening? When does-
within the next few weeks.
Okay.
So I would say by the end of summer, from what I've told. Now, what we didn't have time to cover today were the organizational analysis, which I'm really bummed that we didn't have time to do that. But I wanted you to have that experiential breakout, so that took some time to do. But these are the 2 solutions for organizational analytics: the engagement and the competencies. So you've already had a really good look at engagement, and now just imagine how that would be enhanced to be able to see all the data in one place for the group that you might be looking at, and to be able to see where is the pink or red, where, you know, the risk areas, and then be able to see a heat map to really drill down on the opportunities to avoid maybe losing somebody that you don't want to lose. And then you can always drill down to the specific report, as we've done some of the examples, to see, okay, how do we ensure that we don't lose this person? So I had several examples here. And then for the competencies, this is what a report would look like across all of the competencies. And in this example, we can see that the highest opportunity for development is in the resilience and perseverance and the impact and influence competencies for this particular group. There are some other opportunities over here for specific individuals. And then you can also drill down and obviously run the reports. This is for leadership. I took the leadership, the 10 competencies for the example here. And then the value proposition for the organizational analysis is very rich. So we talked about providing data for the strategic look, and Harrison provides that with the organizational analytics, with the risk analysis, and with the succession planning that we only briefly touched on. And in terms of hiring and doing succession planning with more objective look, especially being able to be intentional about diversity and inclusion. The succession planning dashboard supports that tremendously, removing those biases. And also, as I'm currently involved in a culture values template, would be another approach to achieve those goals. And of course, the customization and benchmarking of JSAs. In terms of personalized learning, you've seen a number of examples, even though we touched on them briefly, especially with the engagement report and the trait development report for IDPs, and enhancing the Paradox report that will be coming out shortly. In terms of identifying risks, again, the organizational analytics will be tremendously helpful in that. For a positive employee experience and the career development experience, which is so, I mean, for years has been pointed to as one of the top solutions for engagement. And getting the right person in the right role is even more crucial than ever, especially when you're talking about re-architecting and redefining roles. And the ability to personalize the engagement data and to drill down all the way down to fulfillment. There is no other system out there that enables you to do that. And then being able to take those tools, training managers to use them effectively so that they can have frequent and consistent feedback and coaching with their direct reports. And of course, we talked briefly about the EQ and how that can support the ability to manage, for managers to be better coaches. And then the wellness and whole person in the workplace, dealing with the stress management, which everybody agrees is accelerated during this last year, and being able to address that and help people to look at the things that cause stress for them personally, facilitating the remote work, and all of the organizational goals that have been so vital to success for many years are heightened with the changes that organizations are going through. So using Paradox and other tools such as engagement to increase adaptability and flexibility and innovation and resilience and so forth. And also impacting your trust, the accountability that we talked about and so forth. So it's just a whole range of innovative ways that you can apply Harrison to the success of the organizations that you work with. So our time is concluded. Would anyone have any parting comments that you would like to make?